everybody. It is so great to either see you for the first time or see you again if you have joined us in the past. And if you are joining us right now, then I'm going to assume something. I say this at the start of every one of these webinars, which is that you are an insane person. You are a crazy person. What did you do to yourself? You became a CPG founder. Why did you do that? What a hard business this is. You have to learn so many different things. And chief among them is how to communicate your brand in the tightest way possible to make sure that people understand exactly what you have to offer, why it is better than everybody else, and why they need to buy. And that is the thing that we are going to help you with today. Hi, I'm Jason Feifer. I am the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine. I'm also a co-founder of CPG Fast Track. I'll tell you a little bit more about what that means in just a minute. But CPG Fast Track, one of the things we do is we host these monthly sessions where we review packaging from founders, and that's what we're going to be doing today. We've had a whole bunch of you who I assume are watching right now who submitted your packaging already, and then others who are here just to watch. And maybe if we get through, it's happened, not often, but if we get through everybody and there's somebody else who wants to throw in, I suppose we could do that. But what we're just going to start with is looking at all the packaging that's been submitted. It is a wide range of products, a wide range of approaches to packaging, and we're going to break down what we're seeing that works, what doesn't, how you can improve. And our goal, as always, here and throughout everything that we've created with CPG Fast Track, is to help you grow your CPG business. Now, it's not just me here, and that is because I have three of my co-founders at CPG Fast Track who are with me, who are incredible CPG founders themselves. We've got Lisa from Little Spoon, among many other incredible points of your business adventure. I don't even know what the hell I'm saying here. We got Markus from Sigmatic. We've got Dave from O2 Hydration, and these guys know so much about building a CPG brand, and they are exactly the kinds of people who you have access to at CPG Fast Track. Let me just take a minute to explain what that is, and then we're going to dive into it a little more later. But I know we're all here to talk about the packaging, so we're going to get to that in just a second. But what is CPG Fast Track? CPG Fast Track is functionally our solution to help overwhelmed early stage consumer packaged goods founders grow, because building a business like this is incredibly lonely. There is so much that you have to learn, and wouldn't it be great if you had access to peers who are just at your stage and just ahead of you in that journey, who are working through the same exact challenges that you are, and also access to the kinds of people in this room right now with Lisa, Dave, and Markus, who have been there, done that, understand everything from fundraising to e-com to logistics. This is the kind of stuff that can really transform brands, and they do. Actually, Dave, let me just pull you in for one hot second here to fill in a little bit more. Maybe tell us about some of the ways in which we help founders. And the basic thing I should say up top is that when you join CPG Fast Track, you are put into a small group that meets twice a month to talk through the challenges that you're facing. And then also you have access to monthly calls with incredible founders. Tomorrow, we're talking to Wild Brands founder and CEO, one of the leaders in the protein chip space. And but Dave, tell me a little bit more about why this can be so impactful for founders.
Yeah, I think that, me and Markus and Lisa, we can all share how valuable it's been to have a council of people who we trust and we can go to advice to in terms of growing our own brands. And we're effectively curating that council for you, because it took me probably 5-7 years in my founding journey to get together the right group of people who I could talk to regularly and ask advice of. And so with CPG Fast Track, much as the name implies, we're fast tracking that for you. So we get you in the right room with the right people to talk about ways that you can either grow your brand faster or save money. And we've got a few different options in terms of how to do that, which we'll touch on earlier or later, but I think that's the foundation.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get back to that in a little bit, but if that sounds interesting to you, stay tuned here, because we'll tell you more about how we can help grow your brand. All right, but why don't we get into some packaging, because that's what we're all here to do. I'm just throwing up the first one here. So here's how this works. If you haven't been to one of these before, is that we throw these up and we just take a couple minutes to talk about what we're seeing and what we feel works and what doesn't. And so let's start here. We're going to look at Ava's Pet Palace. This is Gone Bananas. I like to just start by saying what I'm seeing so that we can all see it together. So we've got Ava's Pet Palace, Gone Bananas. We've seen an earlier version of this in previous calls. So this is a oat and banana recipe, organic baked dog treats, made with only 7 ingredients. You can see a little bit of the product there. We see down below, small batch, limited ingredients, no wheat, corn, or soy, no fillers or synthetics. And then we've got a brand story and Ava right there with her adorable dog. All right, so let's throw it open. Dave, Markus, Lisa, what are you seeing?
I can start with what's hard for me to see, which is at the bottom. The white on yellow is a really tough combination. So I would either consider changing up that background color to make the white pop a little bit more, or elevating those icons up to the top. I think they're really important. I'm imagining to the value proposition. I can't read them, and I don't think I'd be able to read them if they were 4 feet away from me in a store either.
Here's what I'm seeing. I'll tell you what I'd love to know what Lisa, Dave, Markus, what you guys think, but I am really torn here on Gone Bananas, and the reason for that is because I see over and over and over again founders get a little too clever and cute on their packaging in a way that then misses an opportunity to just more directly talk to their consumer about exactly what this is. Donald Miller from Building a Story Brand, who I'm absolutely obsessed with, calls this a cognitive load. Like, how much cognitive load are you going to place on your consumer? And anything that makes them think just an extra beat means that they are more likely to move away. And what I'm wondering here is if there's a missed opportunity to say something about why this dog treat is especially fill in the blank, especially nutritious, especially excellent for your dog, especially delicious, whatever it is. I'm not necessarily getting that. What I'm getting instead is cleverness. So we've got Ava's Pet Palace, and then the tagline is treat all pets like royalty, which is fine, but also it doesn't directly tell me exactly what you're going to be doing for my dog. So there's a little bit of a cognitive load there. And then Gone Bananas is the first thing that I see. And I guess I understand that it's banana flavor, but is that the thing that's most going to drive me to purchase, that it tastes like bananas for my dog? I'm not sure. What if I don't know if my dog likes bananas? I don't know. Instead, I might want to know something more about how it's going to help my dog, and maybe that would be the thing that pushes me. So I'm a little torn here on whether or not I'm seeing the right sell. But what do you guys think?
I think that the value proposition for this is probably there's no animal products and it's very few ingredients. And if that's the case, then I think Gone Bananas can probably, that whole section can probably be said a little bit more clearly by saying something like oat and banana treats or organic banana oat treats. And that's it.
Yeah. The organic is also a huge call out. Someone said in the comments as well, I think Kim said that it is very important to emphasize the organic. Now you do have the organic USD organic logo, which is helpful, but then the organic baked dog treats is very small. And it's actually what makes this probably more premium product.
Yeah, and I think going off of that, the one last thing I'll close on is I think the value proposition is clean, few ingredients. You're really standing for that again, that premium nature. And I don't think that comes across as a first glance. And part of that is the color palette, because it's not a natural color palette. Doesn't mean you have to change that. It's just something to think about and maybe balance with other elements, whether that's the imagery, the font, what kinds of tags and badges you're kind of calling out there. But I don't think you're getting all the credit for the quality ingredients that your brand stands for.
This is something I'll say for Ava, but also for everybody on the call here is I like to think about the hierarchy of information as thinking through the two-step process that a consumer is going to go through when deciding on whether to buy you. And I understand that a lot of this is going to be D2C, but let's just use the image of standing at a store just for the sake of clarity here. So imagine that somebody is standing in front of a shelf where there are 10 dog treats. And what they're going to do is they're going to look at all 10 and they're going to narrow it down to 2, and then they're going to pick the 1 over the 2. Now, is everyone going to do it exactly like that? No. Is anyone going to consciously do that? No. But like, that's kind of what's happening, right? Like, you see a lot of options, you narrow it down to the couple that you want, and then you pick that one. And so what we need to do is think about what information can we hit people with very cleanly and clearly so that you become one of the 2 that people are going to narrow down to and say like, I definitely like Ava's and also this other one, and now I have to decide between the 2. And then what's the secondary information that you're going to share that somebody might see next that's going to put them over the edge for for buying you instead of the other one that they are narrowed down to. So that means that you have to start incredibly clear about the top value prop, the things that are going to most move that consumer. And in that case, I think, you're right. We're hearing it's the clean ingredients, it's the organic, it's the really clear stuff that has to be table stakes for somebody's purchases, and you have to make that incredibly clear. You can't expect them to be searching for it. And then once you've got that and they say, yes, this is definitely the kind of brand for me, then what is the secondary sell? What's the next set of information, which is maybe flavor, maybe something else that is going to tip them towards purchasing you. So think about that, like steps of hierarchy and steps of purchasing decisions. And then that can help you think about what you need to make sure people don't miss it first. And then we'll see when they look a little bit closer. Anything else to add, guys, or on to the next?
I think it's great.
Awesome. All right. So the first time I saw this, I was like, what's going on here? And then Markus told me to look here at how it actually looks rendered in real life. So now you can see this here is actually see-through, and it looks like this, which is great. I love this. Okay, so so this is what it looks like there. And now let's go back to that. So what do we see? We see Drink Folks Gut Reset Prebiotic Root Tonic for daily digestive support, ginger, galangal, cinnamon horchata. So that would be what we would see on the front. Oh, I see. This must be a redesign, and this is old. Is that what's going on? Oh, yes, it says old bottle. So these are the old bottles, and this is the redesign. So here's what we're seeing. And then, there's some stuff on the back here, which explains the different attributes and explanation and how to use it and so on. All right. So what do you guys see?
I do actually love that design. It's a nice little trick. When I I emailed you back and forth a little bit with this and said like I think there's something broken in the design, and then I saw the photo. I'm like, no, there's nothing. It's like actually a very interesting way of explaining this. Now let's go back to the previous screen. I think for me here is like I'm trying to also like think about what is the most important thing to say here. So the prebiotic root tonic, I need to see that because otherwise I don't understand what you're selling. And it's such a small thing that I have to actually find it. When you have this yellow liquid, it looks already pretty like, in my eyes, pretty tasty. I come from that side of the, supplement. So that looks tasty for me. So it's less highlighting that. But it took me like too many seconds to figure out what you're getting, what you're selling here. But the design is very smart. I liked it.
I agree. I mean, well, you guys tell me. I am not the consumer for this, so I'm seeing a lot of language that doesn't make any sense to me. I have no idea what a gut reset is. I don't know what a prebiotic root tonic is. I don't know what to do with this necessarily, and that could be just fine if there's a wide consumer base that understands this language and is looking specifically for this language. My instinct is always to caution against using language that's too niche, unless you are just really dialed in on a hyper specific audience and you've got those D2C channels really smart or wherever you're in retail, everyone exactly understands what you're talking about. I don't know if this is true there or if there's something more expansive that should be crafted. But I would always caution people against what I call assumption of shared understanding, which is language that you're familiar with, which you then assume the consumer is familiar with. Because if you are assuming even a little bit wrong, then you're just going to be speaking right past them. A classic example is that Poppy, when Poppy started as a brand called Mother, and it sold itself as apple cider vinegar. And there's just not a large audience that understands what apple cider vinegar is, or understood why this brand was called Mother. It was called Mother because that's like the floating something something something. I don't know. It like had a reason for it, but it doesn't make sense to me. All I'm hearing is a kind of stern sounding name that doesn't sound like something I want to drink, and that's why they eventually evolved it into Poppy, which became a far broader based consumer product, being a wider group by using a more familiar language. So I don't know if that's right for here, but I want to point that out, that there's often always a way to expand your market by expanding your language.
I think the system makes sense. She's got the brand name drink folks, and then from what I saw earlier, the benefit is underneath. So in this case, it's gut reset. I might consider gut health as a little bit more straightforward benefit, if you can say that. I don't love the word root there, so maybe it's prebiotic tonic, unless you're talking to a bunch of Finnish foragers like Markus. I think root might be a turnoff for a lot of people. But I think it's really strong as it is. I just think you can lose some words and replace a few key ones.
I actually really like daily digestive support as maybe the more leading descriptor versus gut reset. I think that people
Yeah, that's good.
more intuitive. You have like a lot of great language here. I think it might just be a little bit of elimination and editing yourself and the hierarchy. But I think when you say like daily digestive support, one, I like that because it's a ritual. You're saying daily. So you're helping to prime the consumer and say like, oh, this is something you should be having, like your coffee. And I see you have these like root rituals where you could have it, in the you're suggesting you could have it in the morning straight, as a little snack with a seltzer and, a warm drink before bed. So I know your intention is to like develop these rituals, and I don't know if you sell this D2C and sell almost like, a weekly pack or something like that, but that is really smart. So maybe we hinge everything on that insight and try to really create this like digestive support, option that also perhaps tastes really good. You don't point out taste here at all, but just looking at the ingredients, it looks like it might be a nice spicy, blend. So maybe that's something to pull forward as well.
Yeah. Lisa, as soon as you seized upon daily digestive support, I realized the problem that I had with this language. Again, unless gut reset means something very specific to a lot of people, but let's just assume for a second that it doesn't. I'll tell you what I don't do every single day, and that's reset anything. Like a reset sounds like something that I should do only occasionally. I reset my computer once a month. I'm not going to reset my gut every single day. And so when I see reset, I think about something that I would drink occasionally. But you're actually suggesting something daily. And so I wonder if there's a conflict here between the daily word and the word reset, and whether or not you should really lean heavily on daily and get rid of that reset. Anything else?
Daily.
Yeah.
Daily.
That's very good comment. That is very good comment. That's like we see that in the supplement space, especially that daily use, promoting that. Huge difference.
That's very interesting. All right, here we go. We've got Leah who has submitted epilinks. This is a kind of clean, very simple bottle, and I'll just zoom in here. So we've got epilinks, I think, with a squiggle, and I think we're going to talk about that. And then by Dr. Leah, registered trademark beauty, extra gentle daily scrub cleanser for sensitive skin, gently cleans and exfoliates with microfine particles to reveal radiant glow and hydrated skin, moisturizing with jojoba beads, 100% biodegradable. Okay, and that's more or less what we've got here. What are people seeing?
I think my big question is, does it come with the box? And I know that you're in this webinar, so maybe you can comment. Like, do you have to have all this information inside this, or does it come as a separate box?
That's a good question. Like, what are
Because
we?
sometimes that skincare does that, but I'm not sure.
Right.
It does not come with the box. Okay,
Does
so
not come with the
this is
box.
the standalone. Okay.
Okay, that's a good question. Yeah. I mean, it's I have to say, like, what you saw initially here is the four of us kind of squinting and trying to process it. And I think that what that's telling you is that there's like a lot here that has to be worked through. And look, I'm going to start here on the name. You've got a challenging name. Like, it doesn't have a it's not super intuitive when you first see it, so you've got to work through it a little bit, and then you're adding a squiggle in the middle of it, which makes it hard to read it. Like, I really was unsure what the name was at first, and I may still have it wrong. So I think that's a challenge. Again, if you're just thinking about cognitive load, like how much cognitive load are you putting on people? And if the largest thing on your bottle is actually the name of the brand, and the name of the brand is a little hard to cleanly and quickly process, I think you've given people a speed bump. And then after that, I think the thing that I'm missing is what makes this distinctive. Now, I realize that there are answers here. It's extra gentle, and it has all these kind of different qualities. But I assume that in your market there are a lot of products that make roughly the same claims, so I'm wondering what tips me over towards this one in particular.
I would second that, and I'd maybe be a little bit more bearish on the packaging. I've been looking for a while, and I still don't see what makes it unique and special. And I saw, Leela, you mentioned eco-friendly. That to me makes it unique and special, but I'm not seeing that come through. So this to me looks like every other gentle skin scrub cleanser on the market, and if it looks like every other cleanser on the market, I'm just going to go with the one that has the biggest brand name, like CeraVe or something. Mm-hmm. So I think for smaller brands like this, you got to make it very clear very quickly what makes you special and unique relative to every other gentle scrubbing cleanser on the market. Biodegradable, awesome. Yeah, like that's great. Eco-friendly, biodegradable. I'm not seeing any of that. I mean, there it is now that we've looked for the third time.
Right, right.
But I really think you've got to do some more work to make it clear what makes this product special versus everybody else. And if you send me an email at dave@cpgfasttrack.com, I'll send you a template that we put a lot of brands through when they join, which is our brand on a page template that I think will make it easy for you to identify those three things relative to your category that makes your product super special. But that's, I think, the biggest thing that's missing for me.
Yeah. Tell you guys a quick story, Leah in particular, but this is something everyone should be thinking about. I had a really impactful conversation many years ago with a guy who at the time was the president of Reebok. And what he told me was that a thing he says to his team all the time, that he thinks about constantly, is that you can't compete on quality anymore. And the reason for that is because quality to the consumer is table stakes. Everyone assumes great quality because it's easy at this point to have access to manufacturing that can create great quality. This might not have been true 50 years ago when you could have had a good running shoe and a crappy running shoe, but now basically everything that you're going to pick up at the store is going to be good in some way. And the way he said it to me was like, look, if you started a new brand of scissors, you couldn't market yourself as the sharpest pair of scissors because every pair of scissors is the sharpest pair of scissors. They're all sharp. They're all good. So it's got to be something else. You have to compete on something else. And for him, that something else is story, right? Reebok has to tell the right story to the right audience about why they represent the goals of the athletes who are going to be buying Reebok. But that translates to every brand. So when I'm looking at what Leah has produced here, what I'm seeing is essentially a pretty dense list of table stakes of things that I think the average consumer who's looking for a gentle daily scrub cleaner is going to find and assume it exists inside of everything. Everything is going to clean gently, right? Everything is going to reveal radiant skin. And so you can't just rely upon the quality, because you're competing in a world of quality. So you have to figure out what else differentiates you so that you rise above everything. And that's the thing that I think we're missing here, that we're all kind of like trying to figure out. So maybe it's about what, and I don't think, for what it's worth, I don't think that it's biodegradable. Like, that's a great thing. And that's a really nice secondary or third sell, right? Like, that's a thing where once I'm deciding between Epilinks and one other brand, and they both seem like they're great, and I see that one is biodegradable, I'd be like, oh, well, I guess I'll go with that one. That's cool. But that's not the thing that's going to drive my purchase initially. So that again is where that hierarchy is going to come into place.
Yeah, and I'll just close with the note of, it seems like you're targeting people with sensitive skin. I think, as Dave alluded to, like, why wouldn't I just buy CeraVe? So I would use that as like your kind of, comparison point, and try to like pull through what makes you stand out. Like, if that's like very specific, clean, safe ingredients that maybe CeraVe can't compete on, which, they don't have fully clean ingredients at all. That would be something to pull through and say, like, that's why I'm differentiated. So I think that's a good tool and food for thought for you to kind of workshop this.
Yeah. All right. We've done the thing that we do every time, which is that we spend way too much time on the first ones, and then we realize that, and we have to course correct. So we're going to move quicker through the next, because we do have a bunch. And also, we're going to pause in a minute to tell you more about CPG Fast Track. But first, let's take a look at this. Toby, pure delight in every bite. The Toby bar, it is chocolate, it is peanut butter, it is crunch mini bar, and it's enlarged to show texture. 7 individually wrapped mini bars are in this bag. Guys, what do you see?
So for me, I look at this and I don't really know why I would buy this as opposed to like any other chocolate bar of a brand I might recognize. So I think what that says to me is like, what makes this different? You're saying pure delight in every bite, so perhaps you're arguing a flavor, trade-off where your product has like really good taste for some reason. Maybe the crunch is really incredible. I think we need to maybe pull those differentiating factors through. I'd also say, in a market where you're competing with like better for you in CPG, is this better for you? Like, do you have some better ingredients? If you don't have a clean ingredient list, then like you better taste amazing and be super decadent, because it's really bifurcated in the market now. You're either so delicious and you're like a conscious indulgence, or you're better for you and you have clean ingredients and you're going to feel good when you're consuming. So I think thinking through that tension and where you fall on that spectrum, and then thinking about the hierarchy would do you well, because I think you need to pull through these differentiators and this personality that your brand might have.
Really well said. That's true. You really live inside of this gray space between two different directions right now. And you need to pick one. And pure delight in every bite doesn't tell me anything. I'd say that pure delight in every bite falls into that table stakes thing that I was just saying a second ago, which is like, if you're just telling me that it's delicious, and look, the product photography is nice. I'd eat that. That looks good, but it's not really selling me on how uniquely delicious it is. And it also isn't really specific towards anything. Pure delight in every bite could be describing anything and everything. Pure delight in every bite could be a hummus that I picked up. It could be a sandwich that I picked up at the store, right? And if you I've just become obsessed with Donald Miller. So one of the examples that he uses for a tagline that he put on a product was he was working with an aquarium company, and they wanted to expand their market into families. And so he had them just put kids love aquariums on the packaging. Just that, kids love aquariums, and it like doubled sales just by itself because it was incredibly hyper specific. What's the product? Who's the target? Why is this perfect for them? And that's ultimately what you want to do, right? You want to like sort of identify a problem, offer a solution, and show the benefit. Those are kind of ways in which to package in a tagline. And Pure Delight in Every Bite doesn't really do that for me. It's clever, but it's not convincing. And so I always want to drive towards convincing and leave clever behind.
Yeah, I was looking at their website actually before this webinar just to get more information about it. And I feel like based out of the website, they're leaning more heavier on, they have a mission in the brand that they are helping basically adopt dogs. It's like a part of the thing. There's this retired couple from Ohio who started this company. And I feel like based on the ingredients, what I'm seeing, they should be leaning heavily on flavor. It is not as clean ingredient product as we have maybe seen. So I think that Lisa's comment, pick a lane, is excellent.
Tell the dog story
Yeah.
too. I didn't see that anywhere on the front of the packaging. I think that's
Airedales,
Yeah.
beautiful terriers, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Great. Okay. Next, Noble Beverages. Here we are. Let's zoom in to see what we see. Come on. There we go. We can do it. All right. Noble cold brew coffee. That's what you get from the front, and then at the top it looks like there's different flavors. So we've got maple pumpkin. Is that what I'm seeing? I don't know. It's a little hard to read.
There's a lot of pages if you want to scroll down. There's
there are
more detailed.
there's okay.
Don't need to see that, but there's like, yeah, there's the designs.
Okay. Right. There's also a nitro brew. So Noble cold brew coffee. All right. Well, I'll, as always, I'm going to say, what are we seeing? Although I'm going to start by just, I don't know. It could just be me. I could be the only person in the world. I really don't love when text is put on its side. I find it hard to read, and I just think it's too easy to pass. Thoughts?
Agree. The side that's standard, the can on the left, the standard side, does not do much for me. Doesn't turn me off, but it doesn't turn me on. I think that the can on the right, the side on the right, looks pretty good. I can't read it really, so that's something that you would need to be addressed. But it's at least got a flavor indicator. It makes it very clear, very quickly what the product is. There's some other information underneath. So I don't really care much for the left side of the can. I don't know if that's intended to be the front of the can, but I think the right side of the can looks much, much better in terms of telling you what the product is and what makes it unique and how it's going to taste.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But you really got the readability. There's a major readability issue here. And like just never assume that anyone is going to spend an extra second doing work for you, right? I mean, like this is a real challenge here where I think I even see this in my own industry. I got an issue of Entrepreneur Magazine, right? We'll sometimes the designer here at Entrepreneur will make text really small to fit something on a page, and I always go back and I just like, look, what do we need to cut to make that text bigger? Because I just don't think people are going to work on it. People don't spend the time. They are not going to work for you. You have to work for them. So I think whenever you're looking at a design and it looks like for even a second, someone's going to have to do a little extra work. Let me see. That's a really, you look at that. You've got a really thin, tall font in all caps, and it's really tight together, and it's light on often a light background. That requires a lot of work, and people aren't going to do that work, and they're going to miss it. But this is the reason why I also don't like things on the side, is because it has to do work. Even doing this, boop, like even just turning your head that is work. That is more work than most people want to do when they're considering a purchase.
I think if you could keep this color palette, design kind of that you have where you have the monochromatic. I just think you have to increase the contrast a bit so that the readability is there. But I do like to me, I do on a positive note get like this looks tasty. Like this looks like something I want to taste. I think, you know, the colors and kind of this elegant aesthetic that you've established is very nice. So it looks tasty to me. I think that what we're missing is really just like a very clear headline, byline of like what Noble's best at. Is it like the fact that it's these very, you know, a tight ingredient list? It's not no sugar, but it's like organic cane sugar. It's very like, you know, we're focusing on natural ingredients. I know at the top, I was on the PDF myself off this screen. It says fresh. I think it says freshly something. So that to me, in on the top of the can, Jason, there's like a oh that little border at the top. It says fresh. I forget already.
Crafted fresh.
Keep refrigerated. So like, there's something to this like fresh celebration of ingredients that I don't think is fully coming through that you could pull forward a little bit more strongly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I also should I've been ragging on this design here, but I do agree with Lisa. It does look good. The aesthetic is really nice. I would totally want to try it. It feels intriguing. I don't know what cold brew tea is. I might just not be a tea drinker, but sorry. There's one other thing I wanted to share, which is like, just check this out for a second, which is that, you know, you put this on its side, but actually because you put this box here, the very first thing that I'm going to see is this box. And when you put an N on its side, it just looks like a Z. So like what I'm seeing is a box with a Z in it, and then I can't figure out what that has to do with anything. So, and I don't think that's what you want. You don't want a box with a Z. In fact, you want a box with the N. So always look at your design from a completely fresh set of eyes. Like, get people who have never heard from you before, and put it in front of their face for 3 seconds, and then take it away and say, "Tell me about this," and see what they say. And if they're like, "Oh, why is there a Z in a box?" If your name is Noble, and you're like, "That is a good note." So just always know that like people are seeing something different than you are. Let's do one more, and then we're going to take a quick pause and tell you about CPG Fast Track, and then keep going. Artisan bread mix, traditional bread culture, and different kinds of bread. And it says no to sugar, preservatives, and other nonsense. And then we've got some stuff down below with organic flour, sea salt, low in yeast, made for long fermentation, better digestibility and authentic flavor. Double batch makes 2 recipes. What are you guys seeing? There's a lot of contemplation here. All right, well, I'll start. First of all, I like there's no 2 for some reason is like sticking with me. It makes it feel bossy in a way. And also, by the way, you like everything is capitalized except for the word other. 2 shouldn't be, but which also just like looks a little strange. But you know, I think that you want to you know, there's if I can just I'm just at this point, it's a competition with myself for how many times can I make a Donald Miller reference, but I'm going to make another one, and the reason is because you know, the thing that he talks about is how the customer is the hero and you are the guide. And when you think about that, and about how you should always position yourself as a tool as a guide for the customer, and the customer is really the one on the journey, well, then in that case, the customer is actually the one who is saying no to, right? The customer is like, I've decided that I don't want bread with sugar and preservatives and other nonsense. You aren't the one who is declaring that. You are the one that is going to be supporting them along that journey. And so I don't know that you want to be making statements. I don't believe in nonsense. Instead, I think that you want to be the person, you want to be the brand that they discover because they don't believe in nonsense. And that little shift can help you start to relate better to customers. But past this, I think the reason why the team here kind of went silent when I first threw it out is because what we're looking for, at least what I'm looking for, is something that's going to really tell me why this is special. I'll tell you what I'm seeing. You know, Artisan, great. I'm seeing that it'll do the job, but I'm not 100% sure why this, not that. And so it feels a little too much like it's a little too generic, frankly, is what it looks like. It feels just a little too generic, and you're not really telling me why this is uniquely special relative to anything else on the market?
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a little bit of hierarchy, weird hierarchy here going on. The logo is on the bottom, which is a unique. Usual logos on the top, so you know the brand name. And then there is like you highlight no sugar. It doesn't really come to my mind usually when I shop bread about sugar necessarily, but there's some things like long fermentation, better digestibility. Like those are interesting call outs, kind of like a sourdough call out. So like better digestion. Instead, you're leaning heavily on the sugar, which or like preservatives as well, and actually weirdly protein, which is a very low amount of protein, 5 grams. Is that really a call out that you need to make? So maybe zoom back and rethink everything you're saying here and think, what is the most important call out I have to tell, and reorganize this packaging a little bit, because it's like, I think directionally it's pretty good. It could look maybe a little more delicious, but it just like takes too much to really figure out what's unique about it. I think Dave.
Yeah, this one for me is another good candidate for the brand on a page exercise that I mentioned to Dr. Lila, because I was really unsure. Maybe I just don't know much about bread, which is very true. I don't know what traditional bread culture means, and if that's meaningful or important. I'm probably not the target market. But I'm not convinced that a lot of people do know what that means. I do know that a lot of people know that sugar's bad, preservatives suck, and other nonsense is no good. So that feels to me that it should be perhaps placed in a more particular position. And I also think that you have a lot of if somebody could zoom in on this, you have a lot of things that make this product special. Go down, like organic flours, sea salt, low in yeast, all those things sound good, but they're just not coming through in what I could see on the screen, which is a good representation of what the consumers see on the shelf. Like they're not going to zoom in and see organic flour made with long fermentation, better digestibility. They're just zoom out again, Jason. They're just going to see bread mix, ciabatta, artisan. It's like that's not enough, I don't think.
I'm going to make two comments about copy, and then we'll move on. Number one is I pointed it out up here, but I'm just noticing it everywhere. There's a kind of randomness to when you're capitalizing or lowercasing words. I'm just seeing it all over the place. Why is no machines capitalized, but then needed isn't? Why is makes not capitalized? Better isn't capitalized. Authentic. So, you need a consistency in how you're describing things. Also, I noticed that the phrase traditional bread culture, which I also didn't know what that meant. I was like, culture, is that like yeast culture? Is that what we're talking about? But then I read this, which also requires some copy thinking. Breadista was founded by a native German missing her huge, well-known bread culture. Okay, we're talking about like a culture of eating bread. Okay, well, that's very abstract. Nobody's going to understand that. But now check out the way that the next sentence starts. Tanya is on a mission. And now I'm like, wait, who's that? Who's that? You haven't told me who that is. Oh, wait, is that the native German who's missing her huge? Is that her name? Well, you always need to make sure that you are introducing information in the order in which it is most useful. So if you're going to introduce the idea of a person, you can't name that person in the second sentence because they don't know who that person is that you're talking about because it wasn't introduced in the first sentence. So just always be clear that in your language, you're always making sure that you are walking people through in the easiest way, step by step. Never make them think more than they need to. All right. Let's take a quick pause here and fill in some of those gaps about CPG Fast Track. How do I stop there it is. So CPG Fast Track, if you are a CPG founder and you are juggling just everything, which is probably the reason why you're here, then I just have a feeling. You're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling anxious, you feel like you could be growing a lot faster and stronger if only you had access to all the answers to the things that, you're scratching your head and you're just trying to think, well, what's a better way to optimize this website for sales? Well, guess what? Markus literally does that for a living. That guy knows more about that than anybody I've ever met in my entire life. And this is the kind of thing that we can offer you access to at CPG Fast Track. Dave, I just want to throw it back to you to talk a little bit about what the experience is like for members who join, and maybe even a case study or two of what we've seen people get value as they get involved in and meet these small groups and develop these relationships with peers and also have access to the kinds of folks who are on this call.
Yeah, I think that earlier we touched on the importance of asking people for advice, right? Because there's a lot of people who have opinions, but not all of them are qualified to give you their opinions and for you to take their advice. So CPG Fast Track really curates the right group of people who you can ask advice to, and you know that it's coming from a qualified source. So I think that's a really big deal. That's number one. Number two, Jason, you mentioned how we get groups of founders together on a regular basis, and I want to bring that more color too. So 8 to 12 founders will meet in a peer roundtable style format in a conversation that happens every other week that is moderated by either me, Lisa, or Markus, and they have a very facilitated structured conversation around whatever problem they're working on in the moment. And there's always a problem in your business. It's either not growing fast enough, or you've got something going on with investors, or you want to save money here. And generally, by asking the right people who are qualified to give you advice, you can outsource that problem much quicker. You can solve that problem much quicker. So we provide that mechanism and that structure. And then the last thing I'll say before, maybe I'll kick it to Markus or Lisa for a case study. But the last thing I'll say is that we vet our community quite a bit. You know, we don't let everybody into CPG Fast Track because there's a certain type of individual that we're looking for, so that once you're in, you know that everybody's going to be cut from the same cloth. So it's a highly vetted community, and what that translates into is, you know, there's going to be a lot of people who you have a lot in common with right off the bat. That you can not only ask for advice, but you can grab a cup of coffee with. Maybe you meet up in person sometime. This is a great group of people who can not only help you, but also provide some support in the form of friendship, which is really nice for mental health. We often forget about that as founders, that you kind of have to have good relationships with other people to stay sane. Markus, Lisa, you guys got a case study?
Well, I think I want to maybe highlight. There's many of them, but from my side, because I'm very focused on D2C side. For example, I work very closely and been working very closely with someone who has a supplement brand. They joined CPG Fast Track. They were doing a lot of events to get people to buy. So we end up and they said that they don't want to go to events all the time. They want to find another way to get sales. We turned that into a D2C play, so e-commerce play. Right now, they're scaling quite rapidly. They're spending, 30 grand a month of ad spend. They had nothing before they started. And every day we tinker things with that founder to improve that. So that's a pretty interesting case study, from zero spend to a 30K a month, which is significant spend. And it's, by the way, profitable. Yeah. So it's not just spending money. There's no investors behind that company. So he has to be profitable in those.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just dropped the chat. I just dropped into the chat, cpgfasttrack.com. So if anyone is interested, what do they do, Dave? Just click
Go
there
to
and hit apply?
cpgfasttrack.com, click apply. We'll review the application pretty quickly. It'll take less than 5 minutes to fill out. And if you're a fit, we'll get some time with you. I mean, I'll cover one other thing really quickly. There's 3 tiers of membership on CPG Fast Track. One is super cheap, $29 a month. You can do that, get a taste for CPG Fast Track in terms of the community. You'll really only have access to the digital component. Forget about what I said regarding 8 to 12 founders meeting regularly. That's not really part of that deal. But it's there if you want to test the waters. For the growth tier, that's the one where 95% of our members are in today, and that's by far the most valuable. The partner tier is a little bit more bespoke. I don't think a lot of people on this call are going to need that level of engagement, but check it out. I would highly consider or encourage you to consider either the growth tier or the community tier, and know that in either of those scenarios, we offer a 60-day money-back guarantee. So if you don't like what you see after a couple months, then you can get your money back. So check it out. Application takes 3 minutes, 5 minutes tops, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, just go up there to the top to apply now. Somebody should just drop that link in the chat again, but cpgfasttrack.com and apply now. Okay. We've got 11 minutes. I want to hit as many of these additional brands as we can. So let's get to it. We've got, here we go. We're back. We've got Elika. Ilika. Organic, vegan, plastic-free lip balm. It comes in zesty. Anyway, it goes ginger lemon, mint breeze, cardamom rose, chamomile tranquility. So, all right, we're going to move fast here. What are you guys seeing?
I think similar to a comment that I shared earlier on Ava's Pet Palace, the color palette to me doesn't feel matched with the value prop of being organic, vegan, plastic free. This is not to say you can't use pastel colors and still communicate that, but there's some disconnect for me there. When I look at this looks maybe like it, just looks like a for fun product. So I think there's maybe something we could do there. Like you can use the same colors you have on the packaging, but maybe this cardboard, the background where you have the yellow, the blue, the pink, the purple. Maybe we think of just a clean background of just one color, right? Something that just makes it feel a little bit more organic and plastic free. When you think about those words, you think about natural colors. So I would just have a thought there. And then you have these big call outs on the top: animal, test free, and vegan for the planet, all these certs and everything. Should they be at the top? I don't know. I think it's a little busy, and I'm not sure people are consuming for those things. I think that's something that could potentially be thrown onto the back in this particular category. I think people want to know, clearly good ingredients. You're not putting crap that you're ingesting and not knowing about it on your lips. What else? Based on the colors and the flavors, maybe there's something about just like really refreshing flavors on your lips that people really like. Also, is this for an adult? Is this for a tween? Is this, what's the target audience there? Because again, I think the colors make it feel a little childish. So maybe you're going after a kid, and this is going after a parent who's maybe buying it for their son or daughter. So I think those things need some clarity as well.
Great breakdown. I'll add just one little thing and then we can move along, which is, my brain is just breaking on all the vertical lines up here. So first of all, the name could be pronounced in a couple different ways, which I think is always a challenge. I'm seeing Ilika, I'm seeing Ilika, I'm seeing Ilika. I don't know, but then also you've got, big I, and then directly underneath, you're separating your attributes by lines, which look a lot like these things. And then also the L in plastic seems to be bold for some reason. And so I'm just seeing, it's just like line all over the place. And I'm just really having trouble visually processing that. So I think you want to think more about how you're presenting all this. And then also, I'm just going to also point out a kind of inconsistency that just felt a little weird as I was reading it, which is that these two have, it's a flavor, but then this is flavor description and flavor description. And I think when you're putting things all in a line, you want them all to feel really parallel to each other. All right. And now we're looking at Tasu fruit chips. Mango is this particular variety of fruit chip. No sugar added, not fried, made with 100% fruit. That's what we got. What are you guys seeing?
I was looking at this and I think this is actually pretty good. It has, if I will be shopping a little snack and I'm like, this has the information that I need. It's a fruit chips. The flavor is mango. It has little less calories. It's 100% fruit and there's no added sugar. So I'm like, yeah, I could probably try it based out of that information. Yeah, you could probably make the flavor pop a little bit more. I think information-wise, I was like pretty sold.
Yeah.
Finnish minimalist loves it. I think that you need to make the flavor pop a little bit more for us Americans, because to me it looks kind of looks okay. I would lean more heavily into making it look mouth-watering.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same. I feel like this is up here is a lot of missed opportunity to sell me on something, to make it look more delicious, to do something. And then also the big word here that I see, well, the big word I see is tasu. And I think that tasu should be smaller and fruit chips should be larger, but also mango should be larger because look, maybe I'm just a dumb idiot, but I'm looking at this and it actually still took me a minute to know that these are mango chips. I knew they were fruit chips because I could see that really clearly, but mango actually is just pretty small at the bottom, which also is going to get easily covered, and then just kind of tucked over here in the corner. And I'm not seeing enough of what the flavor is. So I think that you really need a signal. This is what it is, and this is why it's great. And I think you're almost there, but you can definitely do that bigger and better. All right, what we got here? We've got Don't Worry. Oh, that's a cute name. We've got these merengues. 1 calorie per piece. They're naturally flavored cooking cream, maximum indulgence, minimum calories. It's gluten-free. It's keto. It is a ice cream sandwich. I actually am not 100% sure what I'm looking at right now. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I'll give it context. I want to hear what everybody else thinks of the packaging. I have a little bit more context because the founder sent me some of this product. The taste is very, very good. They're meringues. So they're meringues that come in a plastic jar, and this is the packaging that wraps around it. So this is the flavor of the meringue.
Mm. Well, I mean, look, you're leaning into one hyper-specific area, which is people who are really focused on zero sugar, almost no calories, right? Like it's in the language, it's in all the call outs. So I think that you're doing a good job of hitting that hyper-specific, and I like the name "Don't Worry." I think that's really clever and cute. So I don't know. I'll tell you what I really, really like. Perhaps this does the best job. I'm going to make a bold statement here, which is that of everything that we've seen today, I think that this possibly does the best job of identifying a hyper-specific audience and just nailing it to them, like over and over again, right? Every single element on here is hitting a very specific consumer. And these signals, I presume, are exactly the signals that they're looking for. Now, could you do a better job of making this look a little more delicious? I think that you could. You're so heavy on, don't worry about it. It's almost no sugar. I mean, no sugar, almost no calories. That the actual product itself is a little secondary. It kind of reminds me of the way that Oatly used to look before its redesign. Go look that up. Where it was just really hyper focused on, hey, you're a consumer that has a restricted diet, and so this is for you. But instead, what it went eventually to was this is awesome and it's for everyone because it's delicious. And I do think that you could do more of that, but you're hitting an audience and you're hitting them hard, and I like to see that.
Jason, I actually shared with the founder the case study that we did on Halo Top before and after. Same idea, right? You've got the information there, but it needs to be polished. It needs to be polished in a way that looks more aesthetically pleasing and possibly pared down so that it's just open to everybody, not just keto-specific people who love meringues.
Right. All right. We have 2 minutes. I'm just gonna boldly, crazily go into hairdo. I know Carmen and I have emailed. All right. So this is this is something we should maybe come back to on the next one because there's a lot here. All right, Carmen, you're up next, but that's going to be next time. So that's actually a pretty good way to say, look, we do this once a month, and we're going to do it again. If you are here, it's because you signed up, which means that you're on the email list. So watch the email list. You will get information on the next ones, and also right there down at the bottom, cpgfasttrack.com. All you have to do is go. You'll see that apply here button at the very top. We would absolutely love to hear from you and to welcome you into the community. And as Dave said, there are a couple tiers, and we want to make this really accessible to founders who are look at your stage, which is to say you're doing so much yourself, or maybe with one other person you're overwhelmed. There is a lot for you to learn, and inside of this group there are so many people who are like you, who are at that same journey and who are figuring things out and doing what Markus described there, and just growing to the point where they're spending $30K a month on ads and it's a profitable business. That is incredible, and it's the kind of thing that you can only do when you have the support systems that are really hard to find, which is the reason why we've built them. So we really appreciate your time today. Lisa, Dave, Markus, always great to see you guys. Thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you for everyone who joined, for everyone who submitted. Again, cpgfasttrack.com is the place to go, and we will see you very soon. Have a great Wednesday.
Thank you.